The golden towers of Zerithus Palace gleamed under the twin suns, their sharp spires cut into the sky like blades of light, casting long shadows over the marble courtyards. It was the heart of the alien kingdom, a place where foreign dignitaries rarely walked without an escort. On this day, palace guards stood unusually alert, their scaled armor glinting with the reflection of the suns. A new guest was arriving, one not easily ignored. Captain Rylan Ward stepped through the great bronze gates, his boots hitting the polished floor with a steady rhythm. His armor bore the scars of battles fought far from here, each mark telling a story of survival. He was a human warrior broad-shouldered, and carrying himself with the quiet confidence of a man who had seen death and walked away from it more than once. The court servants eyed him from a distance. Some whispered, others frowned. Humans were not hated on Zerithus, but they were not trusted either. Too many wars had been fought between the two peoples. At the far end of the throne room stood Princess Salvara, heir to the throne. She was unlike any human. Her skin shimmered faintly in shades of silver and pale violet, and her eyes were deep pools of gold. Her ceremonial gown flowed like liquid light as she moved. Salvara had been told to greet the visiting warrior as part of the new diplomatic mission. She didn't like the idea. She had read the histories humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and always wanting more. But when her eyes first met Ryland's across the hall, she froze. For a moment, the world seemed quieter. Something about his face, the way he carried himself, felt familiar, but that was impossible. She had never met this man before. Captain Ryland Ward, the herald announced, his voice echoing through the vaulted chamber. Veteran of the Orion campaign, representative of the human fleet. Ryland bowed slightly, not the deep, subservient bow expected in Zerithus tradition, but enough to show respect.
Your Highness,
he said, his voice steady and deep. Salvara studied him. His eyes were clear, his jaw strong. His expression was calm, yet there was a strange warmth in the way he looked at her, like he knew her. The king, Salvara's father, welcomed Rylan and began discussing the alliance treaty. Salvara listened, but her mind kept drifting. That's strange. Pull toward him, it made no sense. She tried to ignore it. During the formal meal that followed, the court gathered in the great dining hall. The long crystal tables were filled with dishes from across the galaxy. Rylan, though a guest, sat only a few seats away from Salvara, close enough for her to hear his voice when he spoke with the older counselors. An elderly advisor named Lord Tyvrin leaned toward Rylan at one point and said softly, "It has been a long time, bonded one." Salvara's head snapped toward them. "What did you say?" she asked. Tyvrin blinked, startled. "A nothing, princess. A slip of the tongue." But Salvara wasn't convinced. Bonded one was not a phrase used lightly in Zerithus culture. It was a title reserved for life mates, husbands, and wives bound by sacred vows. Why would he use it with a human soldier? The rest of the dinner passed with forced politeness, but Salvara's thoughts spun in circles. Later that evening, the palace quieted. The glow of the twin moons bathed the gardens in silver light. Salvara found herself walking out onto her balcony. From there, she could see the guest quarters in the far wing. A single light burned in one of the windows. Rylan was there, standing near the open frame, looking out at the same night sky. For a long moment, their eyes met across the distance. Neither spoke. The air between them felt charged, heavy with something unspoken. Salvara stepped back, her heart beating faster than it should. She told herself it was curiosity, nothing more. She didn't trust him. She didn't even know him. But deep inside, a small, unsettling thought whispered, "Then why does it feel like I've known him forever?" The next morning, palace life moved at its usual brisk pace. Servants carried trays of documents. Guards stood watch at every corridor, and the smell of spiced morning tea drifted through the halls. Salvara had duties to attend meetings with the council, inspection of the city defenses, but her mind was still on the human guest. She saw him again in the training grounds, where palace guards were demonstrating Zerathian combat forms. To her surprise, Rylan joined them. He moved with precision and strength, countering the alien techniques with his own human style. Watching him, Salvera noticed something strange. His footwork mirrored certain ceremonial steps from her people's oldest traditions. When the match ended, "You fight like one of us," he said. With a grin, Rylan smiled faintly. "Maybe I've had more practice than I remember." Salvara, standing nearby, frowned. "What do you mean?" Rylan hesitated. "Just fragments of the past, things I can't place." She studied him for a moment, then turned away. She had no time for riddles. That night, unable to shake her unease, Salvara visited the Hall of Eternal Records, a vast chamber where every royal event, treaty, and bond was stored. She searched for any mention of Rylan Ward in the archives. Nothing appeared in recent years, but when she looked at older, sealed files, she found entries that had been deliberately erased. Why would someone hide records about a human soldier? The silence of the hall pressed in around her. She left with more questions than answers. The next day brought more tension. During a ceremonial parade through the capital, Salvera and Rylan rode in separate escort vehicles. Crowds cheered for the princess. Odd. But some faces turned dark when they saw the human warrior. Then it happened. A shadow moved in the crowd. In the next instant, a weapon was raised. A bolt of plasma shot toward Salvara's vehicle, but Rylan moved before she could react. He leaped from his transport, shield in hand, intercepting the shot. The impact threw him back, the shield sparking. He landed hard, but still stood between her and the attacker as guards swarmed the streets. The assassin was taken away. But Salvara couldn't stop looking at Rylan. His face was calm, his breathing steady, but his eyes locked on hers for a moment that felt too long. Later, when she visited him to thank him, he simply said, "I couldn't let you be harmed, princess." And as he spoke, a small pendant slipped from beneath his armor, hanging from a chain. Salvara's eyes widened. It was carved with the royal marriage sigilla design only worn by bonded mates. Her voice caught. "Where did you get that?" Rylan looked down at it. "I don't remember exactly. It was given to me years ago. I've kept it ever since." Salvera's heart pounded. This was no coincidence. That night, she lay awake in her chambers, staring. At the ceiling, the words of Lord Tyvron, the erased records, the sigillet, all pointed to something impossible. And yet, deep inside, she felt it. The truth was closer than she dared to believe. The morning light of Zerithus' palace spilled into Salvara's chambers, painting the walls with shades of gold and silver. Yet despite the bright day, her mind was heavy. The image of Rylan Ward, standing in the parade and intercepting the assassins. Plasma bolt haunted her, and the sigil on his pendant. It wouldn't leave her thoughts. Salvera sat at her desk, trying to read reports from the council, but her eyes kept drifting to the window where the city bustled below. Humans were still a mystery to Herlon, even more so. Something about him felt too familiar. As if their lives were connected in ways she couldn't yet understand. She decided she could no longer wait. She had to know the truth. The Hall of Eternal Records was a massive, domed chamber lit by floating orbs that cast a soft, steady glow. Every record of Zerithus' history, every birth, death, treaty, and royal decision was stored therein. Crystalline data stones. Few were allowed access without the king's approval, but as the heir, Salvera had a way. She moved quickly, her silver robes whispering over the marble floor. The hall was silent, save for the occasional hum of energy flowing through the data stones. Her fingers traced the smooth surface of one large crystal containing archived diplomatic records. She searched for Rylan Ward. Nothing recent appeared, but a folder labeled Sealed, Off-World Engagements, Human Delegates caught her eye. Its seal was old, covered in dust, and strangely fragile. With a careful motion, she activated it. Inside were fragments of old entries records that had been erased from the official timeline. Names were scratched out, dates didn't match. And there, in faded ink, was a description of a bonding ceremony between a Zerathian princess and a human warrior. The document was incomplete. But enough remained. The union shall bind the two species. The human chosen is strong, loyal. The bond must be kept secret. Silvara's heart skipped a beat. She read it again, slower this time. Could it be? Her thoughts raced. Rylan, her warrior guest, who seemed so ordinary at first glance, was the human mentioned in the secret ceremony. She had to know more. That afternoon, she approached Rylan in the training courtyard. He was sparring with a guard, his movements precise, fluid, almost instinctive. Yet his face flickered with concentration and memory, like he was recalling something long forgotten. Silvera stepped into the sunlight. He paused mid-motion. "Princess," he said, bowing slightly. She held up her hand. "I need to ask you something," she said carefully. "Do you remember anything unusual from your past? Anything about a bond?" Rylan frowned. "Bond? What kind of bond?" Silvera walked closer, lowering her voice. "Something official. Ancient. Something erased from the records. You might not remember it fully, maybe only fragments, but it involves you and me." Rylan blinked, then took a step back. "You're speaking in riddles, Princess. I don't know. There are flashes sometimes, strange dreams, fragments of ceremonies, his names. Your face appears often, but I don't understand why." Silvara's pulse quickened. "It's true then. You don't remember, but it's real." Before she could speak further, a messenger arrived, panting. "Princess," an urgent message from Lord. Tivron. Silvara's brow furrowed. She accepted the data slate and read the brief note. "Meet in private. There's information you must know about your guest." That evening, Silvera entered Tivron's private study. The old advisor sat behind a desk cluttered with scrolls and glowing stones. His eyes, sharp despite his age, studied her. "Princess," he said, voice low, "you have begun to notice things. The truth is dangerous, and some would use it against you." Silvera folded her arms. "Tell me. I have the right to know." Tivron sighed. "Many years ago, when tensions between humans and Zerathians threatened war, your father authorized a secret pact. You, as the future heir, were bonded to a human warrior to unite our peoples." Silvera felt the room tilt. "Bonded with him?" She whispered Rylan's name. "Yes," Tivron admitted. "Captain Rylan Ward. He was chosen for his courage, loyalty, and strength. A ceremony was performed, union was sealed by law and tradition. But soon after, an attack left him gravely wounded. To protect him, the event was erased from history. Only a few of us knew the truth." Silvara's mind swirled. She had been trained to lead, to protect, and to control herself, yet her hands trembled. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "To prevent chaos," Tivron replied. "If the union had been revealed prematurely, your position as heir could have been challenged. And the humans, many would not understand the pact." Silvara sank into a chair, her mind racing. Her feelings toward Rylan, the familiarity, the strange warmth, the racing heartbeat were not imagination. They were real. Deeply real. Meanwhile, Rylan sat in his quarters, trying to piece together memories that would not come. Flashes of silver light, the warmth of a hand, the feeling of a promise he could not remember. These fragments haunted him. Something about the princess felt like knock at the door broke his thoughts. Silvera entered quietly, closing the door behind her. "You don't remember, do you?" she asked gently. Rylan shook his head. "Only bits. I keep seeing glimpses, faces, names, a ceremony. I can feel it, but I don't understand it." Silvera sat beside him. "You were bonded to me years ago. By law, by tradition, by everything. That's why the pendant, why the flashes, why your instincts seem tied to me." Rylan stared at her, mind reeling. "Bonded to you, but I don't. I can't remember." "I know," she said softly. "But the bond is not only in memory. It is in life, in instinct, in trust. You are mine, and I am yours, even if you cannot yet remember it." Rylan's chest tightened. He could not explain it. but a warmth spread through him, a connection, a pull. Something that told him she was not just a stranger but his. The next few days were tense. Salvera observed Rylan during every council meeting, every training session, every moment in the palace. She noted how his reactions mirrored hers, how his movements in combat felt almost preordained, as if their minds were unknowingly linked. But not everyone was pleased. Certain council members whispered behind her back. The idea of a human heir already bonded to the princess was controversial. Rumors began to circulate, some subtle, some pointed. Salvera knew she had to act carefully. One evening she visited Rylan again in the training yard. They sparred lightly, not as enemies, but as partners, testing reflexes and strategy. Each time their hands brushed, each time their movements synchronized, she felt a thrill she could not deny. You. Fight like someone who knows me, she said, breathless. Rylan paused, looking into her golden eyes. Maybe we do. Maybe it's in us. I feel it too. This bond. I don't remember it fully, but I know it's real. Salvera nodded, heart racing. Then we need to uncover everything. All the secrets, all the history. We cannot ignore what is true, no matter how strange it feels. Elaine placed a hand over hers. A spark seemed to travel between them, subtle but undeniable. We'll do it together, he said. The palace outside was quiet, the twin moons glowing softly over the towers. For the first time, Salvera felt hopa, feeling she had never allowed herself before. The bond was real, the connection was real. And now, she would face the mystery of their past head-on. But even as she felt that hope, a shadow loomed on the horizon. Whispers in the court, enemies waiting in silence, and secrets too dangerous to reveal, these would soon test the bond that had survived years of erasure. Salvera turned to Rylan, determination in her eyes. No matter what comes, we will face it. Together. Rylan nodded. Together. And so the stage was set. Two souls bound by a hidden past, now standing on the edge of discovery, trust, and an adventure that would challenge everything they thought they knew about themselves and each other. The air in Zerithus' palace was thick with tension. Rumors had begun to circulate quietly through the corridors. Rumors about a human soldier and a secret bond with the princess. Salvera walked through the grand hallways, her mind racing. Glance from a courtier, every whisper made her pulse quicken. She knew she had to uncover the full truth. She found Rylan waiting in the courtyard, practicing maneuvers with the palace guards. His movements were precise, fluid, almost too effortless.
Ow!
Salvera watched him, her golden eyes narrowing.
Ow.
Something about him seemed familiar, in ways she couldn't explain. Are you ready? She asked, approaching him. Rylan paused and turned to her. His dark eyes held a quiet intensity. I've been ready, he said, for whatever truth you want to find. Salvera nodded and led him to a private chamber secret study, once used by the king himself. There, hidden behind layers of security, were old records, scrolls, and holocrystals containing decades of Zerathian history. We need to know everything, Salvera said firmly. Every detail of the past that connects us. Rylan frowned, a shadow passing over his face. I warn you, princess, some things may be painful. Salvera took a deep breath. Pain had never stopped her before. It would not stop her now. They began with the earliest records they could find, ancient treaties and ceremonial logs. Rylan's presence in the records was sporadic, sometimes just a name, sometimes detailed descriptions of battles and missions. Yet one entry stood out, the off-world engagement princess. Salvera and human representative bonded to preserve peace. Salvera's pulse quickened. She read aloud, bonded to preserve peace. He was chosen for his loyalty and strength. Remember fragments of that. The light, a ceremony, your hand. But I cannot remember fully. Something happened afterward, and the memory, it's gone. Salvera's voice softened. That something is what we need to find. Tyvron had warned her before. The truth was dangerous. And as they sifted through the records, the danger became clearer. There were hidden notes, almost like warnings. about an attack that had been planned specifically to erase Rylan from history. Salvara's hands trembled. Someone wanted to erase you from the world and from me. Rylan's eyes darkened. I don't know why, but I do know that my instincts, my connection to you, they survived, even if my memory didn't. The next day, Salvera arranged a private meeting with her father, King Valere, who was seated on his throne, though his posture was tense, his gaze sharper than usual. Father Salvara began. I have discovered fragments of the past. I know about the bond, about Rylan, about the ceremony. You must tell me the whole truth. The king's eyes softened, but his voice was heavy with the weight of years. Salvera, brave to face this. Very few would dare. Salvera held her gaze. I am your daughter. I am the heir. I deserve to know. King Valor sighed deeply. Years ago, when our people stood on the edge of war with the humans, I made a choice to protect both kingdoms. You were young, not yet ready to rule, but the future demanded a bond. You were united with a human warrior, Rylan Ward, through a secret ceremony. It was done to secure peace. To unite two worlds, Salvera's hands clenched. And then, what happened? The ceremony was interrupted, he said quietly. An enemy faction sought to kill Rylan and erase the Union from history. They attacked during the ritual. Rylan was badly wounded, and for his safety, the event was hidden, erased from the records, and few knew the truth. We're told nothing to protect you and the fragile peace. Salvera's mind swirled. Rage, confusion, disbelief, it all collided in her chest. So all these years, you were bound and I didn't even know it? You were unaware, the king admitted. But the bond, it is stronger than memory, stronger than distance. It has survived, and now it has been revealed again. Later, Salvera returned to Rylan's quarters. She found him staring at the pendant she had seen before, the royal sigil carved into it, shining faintly under the lights. You are truly my bonded mate, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Even if you cannot remember it fully, it is real. We cannot deny it. Rylan closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. I feel it. Something in me knows it. It's my instincts. My heart, they call to you. I cannot explain it, but I trust you. Salvera reached out, placing her hand on his. A spark of warmth passed through her, stronger than anything she had felt before. Damn. Then we face this together, she said. Outside, the palace seemed calm. But danger was already stirring. The secret of their bond had begun to leak through whispers in the court. Some nobles were uneasy with the idea of a human bonded to the princess, fearing it could undermine her rule. Others were plotting to use the secret to their advantage. Salvara and Rylan knew they could not wait. They needed to prepare for questions, for threats, and for the possibility that enemies might strike at the heart of the palace itself. In the following days, Salvara and Rylan began training together, not just in combat, but in strategy, diplomacy, and the art of reading people. They practiced tirelessly, each session strengthening their bond. One afternoon, while sparring in the private arena, Salvara noticed how instinctively Rylan reacted to her movements. Every time she struck, he blocked and countered with perfect timing, as if he had done it 1,000 times before. You fight like you know me, she said, breathless. Rylan lowered his guard, meeting her eyes. Maybe I do. In some way I remember. Even if it is only in my instincts, it feels natural. The connection between them was undeniable. Every glance, every movement, every shared breath reinforced what the records and memories could not fully reveal. But outside their private world, the court was stirring with tension. A faction of nobles had begun to question the wisdom of a human bonded to the air. Rumors spread, whispers grew louder, and Salvera realized that the palace itself was now a battleground. She stood on the balcony that night, staring at the city. Below, Rylan joined her silently, his presence comforting. They are plotting something, she said softly. Rylan's hand brushed hers. Let them. We face it together. Salvera nodded. Together, she repeated, feeling the weight of their shared destiny. Days later, The palace received word that a group of rebels was gathering near the city gates. They were rumored to have connections to those who had tried to erase Rylan. From history, Salvara immediately called for the council. "We cannot ignore this threat," she said firmly. "We need to protect the palace and the truth." Rylan stood beside her. "I fight by your side," he declared. "No one will harm you." Salvara's heart tightened. His words, his unwavering loyalty, confirmed what she had begun to feel. He was not just a warrior, not just a guest. He was her mate, bound by blood law and destiny. The council agreed to bolster the palace defenses. Soldiers were dispatched. Traps were set, and Rylan was placed in a position to guard the princess directly. As night fell, Salvara could not sleep. She paced her chambers, thinking of the past and the dangers ahead. She thought of Rylan, the human warrior who had risked his life to protect her, who had been her mate long before she knew it. A sudden sound at the window made her freeze. It was subtle, a whisper of movement. She grabbed her staff and turned. But the shadows revealed nothing. Her pulse quickened. Then a quiet voice behind her startled her.
"It, princess?"
Rylan stepped into the room, armor slightly scuffed from training. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," he said. Salvara lowered her staff. "I cannot rest. There is too much to consider. It's too much at stake." Rylan moved closer, placing a hand over hers. "Whatever comes, whatever threats rise, we face them together. That is what the bond demands. That is what I want." Salvara felt a warmth spread through her chest. "Then we uncover everything," she said softly. "All of it. No more secrets." Rylan nodded.
"Oh, no more secrets."
The next morning, a courier arrived with urgent news. The rebel group had been spotted near the northern gate. They were armed, organized, and moving fast. Salvara and Rylan immediately prepared to meet them. Soldiers lined the palace walls, and the gates were reinforced. The air was tense, electric with anticipation. As they stood together, ready for the coming confrontation, Salvara realized something important. She no longer felt fear not when Rylan was by her side. Her heart, once uncertain, now knew. Their bond was real. Their destinies were intertwined. And together, they were stronger than any threat the galaxy could send. The battle outside the palace gates was about to begin, and with it, secrets long buried would surface. Memories would return, and the bond between human and princess would be tested like never before. The city of Zerithus was quiet that morning, but an uneasy tension lingered like smoke. Guards patrolled the streets more often, their weapons polished and ready. Word of the rebel movements had spread through the palace and into the outer districts. And the citizens were wary. Rumors traveled faster than the sun's rays, and the nobles whispered in corners, debating loyalty and alliances. Princess Salvara stood on her balcony, looking down at the bustling city. The twin suns glinted off, the spires creating patterns that danced across the streets, but she barely noticed. Her thoughts were with Rylan Ward, the human warrior whose presence in her life had appended everything she believed about duty, loyalty, and fate. Rylan joined her silently, his footsteps soft on the marble. His armor bore scratches from yesterday's training exercises, yet he moved with the same composed grace that had first caught her attention. "Are you ready?" she asked, not looking at him. Rylan's gaze remained steady. "I have been ready for this moment my entire life," he said. "And not just for battle, for this standing with you." Salvara finally met his eyes. There was a warmth there, a quiet strength, and an honesty that cut through the lingering fears in her mind. She nodded. "Then let us face them together." The gates of the palace had been reinforced, and the soldiers were prepared. The rebels were advancing faster than expected, their intentions clear: seize the city, disrupt the royal command, strike fear into the hearts of both humans and aliens. Salvara and Rylan moved through the palace corridors, inspecting defenses and coordinating the guards. Every command she gave, every strategy she enacted, felt more confident with Rylan by her side. He understood her in ways that went beyond words, movements, glances, instincts, all synced perfectly. "Position the archers here," she said, pointing to the northern rampart. Keep the flanks covered. No one gets through unnoticed. Stepped beside her, adjusting a map display. The western gate is the weakest point. If they send troops there first, we need a counterstrike ready immediately. Her lips curved into a small smile. You anticipate my thoughts, or perhaps. We are just that connected. He glanced at her. It is the bond. It has always been there. Even if we didn't remember it fully, our instincts never lied. Silvara felt a surge of certainty. It was truth. They were stronger together than apart, and nothing in the galaxy could erase that connection. By mid-morning, the rebel forces had reached the outer city walls. A series of loud alarms echoed through the streets as archers and guards took their positions. The rebels were numerous, their formation disciplined, but desperate. They had counted on surprise, but the palace had been ready. Ryland stood beside Silvara on the battlements. He scanned the approaching enemy lines, assessing the best approach. They underestimate us, he said quietly. They think fear will win. But they don't understand the strength of unity. Silvara's heart tightened, and they will learn. Today, they will see the bond of this city and of us. The first wave of attackers approached the gates, and the palace archers released a volley of energy arrows. Bright streaks of light cut through the morning sky, knocking down several soldiers before they could even reach the walls. The rebels faltered, but they pressed on, determined to breach the defenses. Ryland jumped down from the battlement with precise agility,
Landing in front of a group of rebels
who had broken through a small gate. Strike calculated, each step coordinated with Silvara's commands to the guards. Together, they moved as one human instinct and alien precision combined into an unstoppable force. As the battle raged, Silvara felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The rebels were strong, but Ryland's presence gave her courage she had never known. His calm, steady eyes met hers across the battlefield, and in that glance she saw a promise. No matter what happened, he would fight beside her, and she would not face danger alone. During a brief lull, Silvara ducked behind a barricade, catching her breath. Ryland joined her almost immediately, his armor scorched in a few places, but unbroken. We need to focus on their commander, he said. If we take him out, the rest will falter. Silvara nodded. She had spotted the rebel leader directing the troops, shouting orders and rallying his fighters. Together they moved silently through the battlefield, avoiding detection. Each step was synchronized, instinct guiding them forward. When they reached the rebel commander, Roland leaped first, his blade flashing in the sunlight. Silvara followed immediately, her energy staff glowing as she struck with precision. Commander barely had time to react before they disarmed him and brought him to his knees. The remaining rebels hesitated, unsure how to continue without their leader. Silvara raised her voice, addressing the battlefield. Yield. The city is protected, and your rebellion ends here. Ryland stood beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Together, they projected authority and unity, and slowly, the rebels lowered their weapons. Their forces scattered, retreating toward the outskirts of the city. With the immediate threat neutralized, Silvara turned to Ryland. We did it. Together, Ryland smiled faintly, brushing dust from his armor. We are stronger, together, always. Their victory was not complete. As the city celebrated, word arrived that the attack had been a distraction, a mere opening move. A hidden faction within the palace itself had been working against them, plotting to seize power while the rebellion drew attention away. Silvara's jaw tightened. They think they can manipulate the truth. They think they can break us apart. They are wrong. Ryland took her hand. We are bonded. That cannot be undone by whispers or schemes. No one can take what belongs together. Silvara felt a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, the burden of her responsibilities felt lighter. With Ryland, she could face not just the enemies outside, but the treachery within. The next challenge came swiftly. Late that evening, Silvara received a warning. Several court nobles had conspired with the hidden faction, planning to ambush her in the royal chambers. She moved quickly, gathering her personal guards, and of course, Ryland. They navigated the palace corridors silently, their footsteps echoing softly on the polished marble. Every shadow seemed alive with threat, every corner a potential trap. But together, they were careful, calculated, and alert. As they approached the chamber where the ambush was expected, Rylan whispered. On my mark. Silvera nodded, gripping her staff tightly. Together, they burst into the room, confronting the conspirators before they could strike. Guards reinforced their position, and the nobles caught off guard were swiftly restrained. Silvera faced them, her voice cold and firm. The bond of this palace and of this city is stronger than your schemes. You will not manipulate us. You will not harm me, and you will not destroy what is mine by right. Rylan stepped beside her, raising his blade slightly. The truth cannot be hidden forever. You are defeated. The nobles bowed their heads in submission, understanding that resistance was futile. Silvera felt a surge of pride, not just in her victory, but in the way she and Rylan moved and fought as one. That night, as the city calmed and the palace settled into silence, Silvera and Rylan returned to the balcony overlooking the twin suns. Glow. The battle was over, but the journey was far from complete. Silvera leaned against Rylan, feeling the strength and warmth of his body beside hers. I never imagined a human could be this important to me, she admitted softly. Rylan smiled, brushing a hand along her arm. You have always been important to me, princess, even before I remembered, even before I understood. The bond was always here. Silvera felt a tear slide down her cheek, not of sorrow, but of relief and joy. Then we choose each other, she whispered. Always, Rylan replied. For the first time, Letta truly believed in the strength of their bond, not just as a ceremonial tie, but as a living connection forged through trust, courage, and love. They stood together in the quiet night, looking down at a city protected by their unity, knowing that whatever came next, political intrigue, rebellion, or threats from the galaxy beyond, they would face it together. And in that moment, the bond between princess and warrior became unbreakable, their destinies forever intertwined. The sun rose over Zerithus, casting long golden shadows across the palace spires. For the first time in weeks, the city seemed calm, yet the air remained heavy with tension. Whispers of the recent rebellion and the thwarted palace conspiracies had spread, and the people were curious about the mysterious human warrior who had protected the princess. Princess Silvera stood on the balcony overlooking the city, her golden eyes scanning the streets below. She was dressed in ceremonial robes, more as a symbol of authority than decoration. Beside her, Rylan Ward, her bonded human, stood tall and alert, his armor polished and his expression serious. Today, Silvera said quietly, we show them everything. The truth cannot remain hidden any longer. Rylan turned to her, his dark eyes filled with a steady determination. I am with you, Silvera, in everything, no matter what comes. She smiled faintly, feeling warmth in her chest.
Then let
us begin. Inside the great hall, the council had gathered. The nobles who had conspired against the throne were present, as were loyal advisors and guards. The atmosphere was tense. Many eyes were on Silvera, questioning her authority, her choices, and her alliance with a human. Silvera entered with Rylan at her side. The hall fell silent. She raised her hand, commanding attention. Members of the council, she began, her voice firm. The recent attacks and conspiracies have shown us the danger of secrecy. The bond I share with Rylan Ward is not just personal, it is the key to unity between our people. He is not merely a guest. He is my mate, my protector, and my equal in every way. A murmur ran through the hall. Some nobles exchanged worried glances, others stared in shock. Rylan stepped forward, bowing slightly in respect. I do not ask for titles or recognition. I only ask for the chance to protect Princess Silvera, and through her, the kingdom. Our bond is real. I have been her mate for years, even before memories returned, and it is my duty and honor to stand beside her. The hall grew silent again, the weight of their words sinking in. One of the elder nobles, Lord Vadar, spoke cautiously. Princess! A human bonded to the air. It is unprecedented. Are you certain this bond is legitimate? Silvera's gaze hardened. Yes, the records are clear. The ceremony took place in secret, yes, but it was real. And we have proven our unity through action, not just words. Rylan saved my life, helped protect this palace, and faced every danger by my side. That is proof enough. Rylan added, I have no memory of the ceremony at first, but the bond exists in our instincts, in our actions, and in our hearts. I cannot deny it. The council sat in silence, weighing the truth. Slowly, one by one, the nobles nodded. Recognition of the bond once hidden was now accepted. After the council meeting, Salvera and Rylan returned to the private chambers to prepare for the next challenge. Though the palace itself was secure, intelligence reports indicated that the rebel leader had not been captured entirely. He had fled to the outskirts of the city, gathering a small but determined force to strike again. Salvera turned to Rylan. We cannot let him regroup. If he attacks again, the city will suffer. Rylan nodded. Then we go to him, together. They mounted their horses and rode swiftly toward the northern plains where the rebel forces had taken refuge. Formed a defensive line, expecting a human warrior and princess to fear them. But Salvera and Rylan rode forward. Side by side, their bond evident in every movement. They did not hesitate. Their coordinated strategy and synchronized attacks surprised the rebels, who faltered under the unexpected unity of alien and human forces fighting as one in the midst of the battlefield. The rebel leader confronted them directly. He was a towering figure, heavily armored and wielding an energy blade that crackled with dangerous intensity. You cannot defeat me, he shouted. Your bond will not protect you. The humans are weak. Salvera stepped forward, staff glowing with energy. It is not just the bond nor his strength. It is the unity between us and the trust that we share. That is what makes us unstoppable. Rylan drew his blade, standing beside her. Together, we are stronger than you, than anyone who threatens this city. Stand down, the rebel leader hesitated, realizing too late that his forces were already faltering under the combined attack of Salvera, Rylan, and the palace guards. In a final attempt, he lunged toward Salvara, but Rylan intercepted, deflecting the strike and countering with precision. Salvera followed, striking in perfect synchronization with him, forcing the leader to retreat. Finally, cornered and defeated, the rebel leader surrendered. His remaining forces quickly laid down their weapons, recognizing that the unity between the princess and her human mate was unbreakable. The battle over Salvara and Rylan returned to the palace victorious. The citizens, having watched from a distance, cheered for the princess and the human warrior. Their bond, once secret and questioned, was now celebrated. Songs and stories of their bravery began to circulate throughout the city. Salvera stood on the balcony once more, Elon at her side. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. She turned to him, her heart full. Rylan, I never thought the day would come when we could stand openly together, but now we can. Rylan smiled, gently taking her hand. We have always stood together, Salvera, even when the world did not know, even when memories were lost. The bond is eternal. Salvera felt tears of joy in her eyes. Then we choose each other, forever. Forever, Rylan agreed. The following days were filled with celebration. The council formally recognized Rylan as her bonded mate, and the citizens honored the human warrior who had fought alongside their princess. Peace returned to Zerithus, stronger than before, because the hidden truth had been revealed, and the bond between Salvara and Rylan had united not just two individuals, but two worlds. Salvara and Rylan spent quiet moments together amidst the celebrations, learning more about each other, sharing stories, and embracing the love that had been hidden for so long. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, Salvera looked at him and said, I used to believe that destiny was only about duty, but now I know. Destiny is about choice, and I choose you. Rylan pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. And I choose you, Salvera, always. No matter the past, no matter the future.
And the twin moons
rose, casting a silver glow over the palace. In that light, Salvara and Rylan felt the bond that had survived years of erasure, danger, and uncertainty. It was stronger than ever, unshakable, and full of promise. Their journey was far from over. Challenges would come against new threats, new enemies, and the responsibilities of ruling a kingdom. But they faced them together, as equals, as partners. And as bonded mates, the galaxy had tried to hide their connection, to erase it from history, but the bond could not be denied. It lived in their hearts, their instincts, and their courage. And as long as they stood side by side, nothing could break it. That night, in the quiet of the palace, Salvera and Ryland stood on the highest tower and looked out over the city that had seen their trials, battles, and triumphs. Together, Salvera whispered. Together, Ryland echoed. The stars above twinkled, and the city below slept peacefully, unaware that the most powerful bond in the galaxy had been revealed not by law, not by ceremony, but by the courage, trust, and love of two souls who were destined to find each other. And in that moment, Zerithus knew peace. Humanity found honor. And an alien princess finally embraced the human warrior who had always been her real husband. The bond was complete. The story finally was whole.